I have two pretty important topics to discuss with you guys today. One of them being an announcement that was just made regarding fair play over on the Chinese servers and in the Chinese blog, and the other one about the longevity of Diablo Immortal. Both of these topics will be discussed inside of today's video, and we're starting off right away with this fair operations announcement. Please keep in mind that all of this has been translated from Chinese, so sometimes translations get a little bit wonky, but let's see what they're talking about. In order to maintain a healthy gaming environment in Sanctuary, we always maintain a zero tolerance attitude towards unfair gaming practices and crack down on them severely. Now you may be wondering, Echo, this is going on over in China. Why are we worried about it here in North America? And the reason is a lot of times we see things trickle down to what's going on over here in North America from what happens first over in the Chinese version of the game. It's also worth noting that a lot of the discussion points inside of this little post here are very important for fair gameplay and for a good overall experience for all players. Here we go. The following violations will result in penalties, including but not limited to deduction of illegal earnings and suspension of game accounts. Number one, accounts that use scripts and other third-party software and auxiliary tools to perform operations including but not limited to automatic leveling of monsters in space, automatic leveling of monsters on the move, automatic completion of dungeons, or automatic completion of tasks. So if you have some kind of program system or way of just doing this progression mechanic auto, you are potentially at risk of getting a ban. Number two, accounts that use scripts and other third-party software and auxiliary tools to obtain benefits abnormally, modify game data, speed up, or exceed game settings. We see this happening sometimes in Battlegrounds where some players will be using a script or a program that makes them move more quickly than others in Battlegrounds. That's obviously giving them a clear advantage. And, well, that's not fair, and it's now a bannable thing. And number three, accounts that meet abnormal player behaviors such as continuous, identical, or similar operations for a long period of time. So, what this leads me to believe is if you are just there spooning your game, remember the spooning thing where you would just kind of place the spoon on your game? There's even an in-game mechanic right now that you can use to auto-attack, and people will stand still in a space and just auto-attack for a long period of time, auto-farming. That's something I'd be concerned about doing right now as well. We will retroactively crack down on players based on their recent gaming behavior and ban any unfair gaming behaviors. Currently, the team is increasing its efforts to crack down on idle behavior in dungeons and secret realms and unfair gaming behaviors in Holy War Song Domination Battlefield. We hope that all adventurers will not take chances, do not engage in unfair gaming behaviors, and protect yourself, protect the security of your accounts. Fair operation is what the project team has always insisted on. All right, so we get the idea of what they're saying here. So there's a few questions that I have. One of them is there is a follow button that is on the game, so you could follow people in your party. You could follow them while farming. You could follow them while in dungeons. You could follow them in most elements of the game. Is this something that's considered unfair? Admittedly, if I'm making dinner, and I'm playing Diablo Immortal on the side. We all know that we play our games on the side while we do normal things. And if I have to flip the pancakes or something, I'll throw something on follow so that I can, for that minute, follow someone and not be left behind inside of a dungeon or something like that. This happens. That's what that feature is for. So my question, or I should say my concern for something like that is utilizing the follow button. I could understand excessively utilizing that button, but using it at all, could you get banned? I don't think so because it's a mechanic inside of the game, but it's something that obviously has me a little bit concerned. So as I mentioned, these are things that we should be keeping in our mind. Make sure we're playing fair, especially with those of you that have those big time investment and or big spend accounts that you would really not want to lose because, man, that would be pretty bad. Now, we have another topic that we want to talk about today, and that is the life expectancy of Diablo Immortal. Now, this was put over on Reddit, and there are quite a few points here that I want to go through. So I'm going to do that right now. It starts out from Hi There with their comment. Hi everyone, what are your thoughts on Diablo Immortal's remaining life run? How many years longer until the game would shut down servers? Would it be unwise to go all in this game? And we see time and time again mobile gaming companies pulling the plug without warning. So someone that's clearly thinking about playing the game or spending more time inside of the game. And it's a very relevant question. A lot of times we like to get into games early so that we're one of the first adopters, or that we get in there just nice and early. We're one of the original players inside of the game, knowing that there's a lot of leg room, that there's going to be a lot of time that the game will be alive. Also, getting in early is a bit of a risk as well, because if you're in and spending either time or money, you are investing in a game that who knows how popular it's actually going to be, because it has just launched and you just don't know. Many games like Diablo Immortal, which I started day one, but people are starting to play this game every single day, and a lot of people are playing every single day still to this day now. So the question that I always have as a content creator, I mean, I don't just play Diablo Immortal. This is a big part of what I do, how I make money, how I pay my bills, right? So I'm always thinking about this type of thing. Is Diablo Immortal in a good space? Is there something other game that I should be featuring on the channel? All of that type of discussion does happen. Now, there's some great points here that we really need to take a focus on. And No Dot right here is starting off with the first one that I wanted to feature. He said it depends on the population numbers, which is obviously true. Poor Tencent or NetEase gacha usually are under 2 years. Now, when we think about games, I'm going to think about just a couple of big games. Raid Shadow Legends has been out for like 6 years. Clash of Clans has been out for nearly 11 years. Any Supercell game has been out for an extended period of time. Good mobile games last a long time. There's more that I'm going to talk about there, but I don't want to spoil what's said here in these comments. There are really good gacha trends to get earnest support up to as much as 4 years. So basically, if a game is really good, they're saying 4 years. We're already 2 years into Diablo Immortal, and I think that's why this discussion topic is coming out. You do have some examples that go beyond, but they're typically not worth playing due to the lack of updates. We don't have update problems in Diablo Immortal. We're getting updates every single month, and yes, the updates may be lackluster some months. Sometimes you may say, okay, that's not exactly what I'm looking for. But Diablo Immortal is always changing. They are always bringing updates, so they do have an active development team. All right, so we have some titles that go beyond, like Genshin Impact, curiously erratic update timeline, but both Tencent and NetEase have a hot range of new global release titles they're working on at the moment. Monster Hunter, Destiny, along with other regional works. Now, I don't see Monster Hunter or Destiny being games that turn off Diablo Immortal. And I think what maybe No Dot is saying here is they're putting their efforts into other games and less efforts into some of the games that are out. And just so you guys know, a lot of mobile gaming companies, there's a cycle, and this is not how all of them work, but they'll put out a game. That game will be, I don't want to say a cash grab, but it'll be profitable for 2 to 3 years. And as soon as it gets to that point where the profit's not there, the game that they've been working on the side, well, that's what they then decide that they're going to push, and they're going to pull the other one back. If it's still making money, they may let it run idly, maybe a little bit of support, but they'll pull back on that support. Not saying that that's what Blizzard is going to do with Diablo Immortal, just saying that that is what some do in the industry. Personally, expect Diablo Immortal to have a stronger update so far in the second half of the year too that we're in, but they're already slipping badly. And I can say, although I don't think the updates are the worst, I know that the community is pretty upset about the lacklusterness of the recent updates. Now, I'm a guy that can find ways to have fun inside of the game even without updates, but most people always want new content for stimulation. You can see they've accelerated the cost reduction for power phase, which typically comes later in a game cycle. Orb prices are getting reduced, the more deals with bundles more regularly, a stronger emphasis on cosmetics over content. Not bad points. I think Immortal's saving grace is the Chinese market, where although there's a lot of discontent from the whale community, the numbers still supporting it. And that's another thing worth noting is the whale community is not the majority of players. Now, they do spend a lot of money and give financial support to the game, but as far as a player base, it's not the majority. Next year, player numbers will drop off again. It's just a matter of how far they drop off. The game for NetEase and Immortal is, how do you extract the most money by delivering the most minimal content while focused on getting new titles at the door? I'd speculate Blizzard's contract with NetEase is based around performance. See, I disagree that they're not focusing and putting an ample amount of time into Diablo Immortal. I think that they actually are, and I think that, and I don't think that Blizzard has another mobile game that they're whipping up right now. Now, maybe they do, I don't know, but I don't feel that they are just throwing nothing at the game. There's when you look at mobile gaming, this is a very consistent and quick update cycle that they have in Diablo Immortal. Really not many other mobile games do this. Maybe Raid Shadow Legends is one that actually does. You guys know I have a Raid Shadow Legends channel called Echo Raid Shadow Legends. I've learned with that game that they are consistently doing updates. And they're not massive updates, but they're new things coming, new events, new champions and all of that, which keep the environment and the people playing stimulated. I'm expecting a very impressive looking 2025 roadmap. We won't actually deliver satisfaction, when the majors land. So what they're saying here is the roadmap is going to look real big, but the delivery is going to be real small. We'll see. Monster Hunter Destiny and Aeon 2, these, I don't know Aeon 2. These are 3 of the big global release mobile launches in 25, and the marketing starts early 2025 in the latter case. Too hard to judge something like this, but the EOL news will come one day, end of life news, and the money we spent will be gone. This is true. Very deep myself, but I've always treated it as money being burned with eyes wide open. I'm imagining an okay quality year 3 and possibly unappealing year 4, but which point I'll probably say bye and move to a more modern title, hopefully along with friends that I've made here. This is always the difficult thing, right? Like, especially with money and even with big time investment, how do you just decide to get up and go and leave a title? It's really a difficult thing, especially if there's nothing better. And transparently, I don't think there's a better action RPG on mobile out right now, or else I would be covering it here in the channel. And if there ever is one, I will cover it here in the channel, and hopefully you guys would still follow. All right, we got Don't Ban Me Again hopping in with a comment. He says, I agree with what you're saying, but your numbers, I'm sure, will definitely be off. Raid Shadow Legends and Genshin Impact both are very close to being out for 5 years. Raid is actually over 5 years. Both of these games and Diablo Immortal have close to the same yearly and monthly revenue. Raid actually started off much slower than Diablo Immortal with players and revenue in the first 2 years, but still continued on with support and regular updates and advertising for new players everywhere for years 3 to 5. This is 100% true. Games that are successful don't stop advertising and don't stop recruiting new players. Very important. They can make a lot of changes for players, which is doubtful, and turn things around, and we see newer players growing much faster, which would help, but they'll probably stick to the system of trying to squeeze every dollar they can out of the game, as long as they come with mediocre updates. I guess time will tell. A lot of mobile titles pick up popularity in the first, second, and go on beyond 2 to 4 years. I agree, it makes more sense after a few years focusing on new titles, but that's not always the case. With how pay to win this game is right now, I don't think very many titles, especially on mobile, when not put out the same numbers Diablo Immortal is putting out. Very good point. Diablo Immortal is heavily monetized, and it's making a lot of profits, which we're going to look at in just a moment. So why would you stop if it's making that much profit and if it's still one of the more profitable mobile games? I think this is why we will see support and regular updates much longer than some other games, which is actually a good thing that we're hearing right here for Diablo Immortal and the longevity of the game. Now, this is the comment that I really wanted to focus on here because it has some numbers shared. Avernus says, let's take a look at it purely from a revenue standpoint. Revenue data from Game Refinery revenue from 22 to 23. From Game Refinery revenue was $77 million. Revenue from 23 through 24, $22 million. And this is excluding China. Decrease of revenue here is 71%. Okay, so that's a big decrease, but it's still making $22 million. 2 years ago, let's look at the quarterly revenue since we'll have more data points here. All revenue is worldwide, excluding China, which is weird because China is a large part of this game. So Q3 2022, game release, 38 million. We could say 39 million. Q4, 12 million. Q1, 8. Q2, 7. Q3, 5. Q4, 6 million. Q1 of 2024, 5 million, followed by 4, followed by 3. So they're still making, even at the lowest, that's $1 million per month that they're making from Diablo Immortal. Projected revenue from quarter 4 is just under $3 million. So notice we are on a decline as we go. And something that I also want to note is that the decline is including those big update times. There's no big jump. The only jump that we see is right here from quarter 3 of 23 to quarter 4 of 23, and it's a very small jump, $400,000 jump right there. So we're not seeing a big jump when new classes are released or new content updates are coming out. I'm sure that Blizzard is seeing the same. The compound quarterly growth rate, or in this case, decline rate, is about 23% per quarter. They asked ChatGPT. See, I love ChatGPT, such a great tool. We only looked at the revenue data, excluding China, but I don't have any reason to believe the trend in revenue from China would be any different. So if we could assume that China would have the same trend, the downward trend in spend, it would look something similar. Although I'm not sure, but do we assume that China spends more inside of the game than we do in North America? I'm actually not sure there. We looked at the data excluding China. Theoretically speaking, the game can go on for another 18 to 20 years with this decline rate, but in real life, I wonder how long it takes to reach the break-even point for Blizzard and NetEase to get them to stop caring about the game. With the current state of development in live ops, the new content updates are not cutting it for the new players or for any players. There need to be major overhaul in their brand value or major exciting content releases to rejuvenate the player base again, rather than what would be getting exciting players to spend more or existing players to spend more. All right, so really good point here is we have to put some trust in the game developers. They literally make games for a living. This is what they do. They know what to do to keep games alive. Think about Blizzard titles. World of Warcraft just had their anniversary. Diablo, all the Diablo games, like people still play those things. Blizzard games have a very long life. Even Hearthstone Mobile still is extremely popular on mobile, and that's been out for an extremely long time. So there's nothing to me that suggests that Blizzard would dump Diablo Immortal to quickly dive into something new, the new greatest shiny thing. They're more of a team, they're a large enough team to put out something that would go alongside of Diablo Immortal. Take Warcraft Rumble, for example, the vertical style battler game. I actually covered it for a while on a 4th channel. That came out. They gave it a lot of support, and they didn't stop anything for Diablo Immortal. They had another team on it. And let's be honest here, that game has now been out for a year, and it is not very successful, but they're still trying to develop it and to make it a better game for players and something that players enjoy more. And to be honest with you, I actually think the game is a lot of fun. It's just in a very competitive space. That being said, they're still making efforts for it to succeed over a year in, or just about a year into the game's release, and it's seeing so much less success than Diablo Immortal, yet they haven't given up on it. So that is a good sign for us as well. So to finish up the comment here, however, revenue is only one perspective to look at in this case. If you want to look at quarterly average revenue per download, Diablo is hovering around the $14 to $16 range, surprisingly without much decline over the first couple of months of release. From this, we can actually see the players' spends are fairly stable. It's the rapid loss of player base that one of the major problems is the decline in revenue. So it's also worth noting, and I think this is another comment that was said later on in the post, but everything that we spend inside of this game is spent for enjoyment. There's nothing that you get out of spending inside of the game that has any real life value. And if the game were to go offline, no more servers, no more support, all of our progress inside of the game and the game itself would be gone, along with any money that we've spent. This is not untrue with any mobile games, unless if we start having that Web3 discussion where you actually own your assets in the game, which, to be fair with you, in my opinion, is not the worst thing in the world, and we're talking about a game where you spend this much money. But it's all here to enjoy while we have it, because one day the game will be gone. one day the game won't be supported and any money that we spent in it is no longer there and we have lost. But we're spending that money for our enjoyment. The same way that if I want to take my family out to dinner and a movie, we're going out, we're having a movie, we're having a dinner, having a movie. We're watching a movie, we're having a dinner, and we're bringing back the memories. Very similar experience here. We are spending our money on entertainment, and at this point in time, I am still entertained by the game and enjoying myself as I play. I hope you guys are as well. Would love to hear your comments on this entire discussion regarding both getting rid of players that are cheating and how long is this game going to live and how much more time do we have left. Take care, guys.